time for Taking Care of Business on Midlands 103. With thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Taking Care of Business. I'm Ronan Berry, this is Midlands 103, and coming up over the next hour we're going to look into the biggest threats now in terms of your cyber security, because believe it or not, the threats are moving more from ransomware and hardware to the very people behind your business, right up to and including CEO sextortion. We'll learn all about that a little bit later because, as I say, the cyber threat landscape is shifting from servers to social media. Kevin O'Loughlin from Rose and Alice, and of course the CEO and founder of Nostra, will explain why protecting networks is no longer enough and how businesses must now safeguard the people behind the screens. And you're going to meet a new business from County Westmeath. They are finalists in the County Enterprise Awards. That'll take place tomorrow. But after spending 9 years in New York and LA fashion, to then launching her own creative studio in Mullingar, Katie Cochrane of Creators31 will share how she partners with brands on product launches, PR gifting and experiential projects, taking ideas from concept to reality. Looking forward to digging into that one a little bit later on too. If you want to be part of this evening's conversation, you can get me, as always, by text or WhatsApp here in the studio. 083 3010 103 is the number, powered by the home of Offaly's top-selling car brand, Lamb Brothers Toyota, on the Arden Road in Tullamore. But to begin this evening, it's hard to look much further than the Middle East at present, given everything that has transpired there since Saturday morning this week. A quick overview of what we know at present. Well, the US has shut its embassies in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Beirut amid drone attacks as Iran retaliates across the Middle East after the US strikes early Saturday morning. The UK will now begin to send warships to Cyprus after some drone strike and other activity there as well. The Irish government is considering contingency plans for Irish people in the Middle East. It's mulling over ideas about what next steps it should take, as it advises the 22,000 or so Irish citizens in the Middle East region. It's advising them to shelter in place at present. And even today, the Minister has said the government is ready to charter flights if necessary for Irish citizens affected by the escalating conflict. And it is one that is growing and escalating minute by minute. You know, just yesterday we heard talks of maybe might run for 2 to 3 days was the word coming from the US. That was revised to maybe 5 to 6 weeks yesterday. So what are the long-term effects and the long-term impacts of this going to be? Yes, as we know, there's around 22,000 Irish people who currently live in the Middle East, many for work reasons. Many people are somewhat stranded there or still stuck there, transiting across the world. It is one of the largest international hubs in the world for global travel. Well, and many Irish and Midlands companies now have a base in the United Arab Emirates too, particularly in Dubai. One such company is Watt Footprint, headquartered in Mullingar, and they're a leading energy management company offering end-to-end solutions for energy outputs for business. I'm delighted to be joined by their CEO, Paul Mahon. Paul, good evening.
Evening, Ron. How are you?
Paul, I've mentioned there that Watt Footprint, obviously a significant presence in Mullingar, but over the past couple of years he expanded over to Dubai. When did that first begin, and I suppose what was initially enticed you towards Dubai?
Yeah, I suppose it was always on the radar for ourselves. Probably about 18 months ago was when we really set up our base in Dubai, and I suppose has developed it since then. But I think there was quite a strong drive for sustainability from an optics point of view, really around there, to be seen to be more sustainable, quite driven by the government in the UAE. So that was probably a big push for us to kind of establish a base over there.
Was it hard to make those initial inquiries and begin to get a footprint over there?
Yeah, well, I think initially we actually concentrated in one of the Emirates up the north called Ras Al Khaimah, who had a 2040 decarbonisation plan, and we were actually finalists for one of the top 3 businesses across 70 businesses worldwide that were chosen to enter the Khaimah. So that was probably an initial kind of a good start for us to kind of establish ourselves.
And what scale are your operations in Dubai at the minute?
Yeah, we've a strong team there at the minute. We're working, I suppose, quite heavily within the hospitality sector, around the education sector as well. We've quite a good kind of stance in there as well. So it's grown quite quickly over the last 18 months, and the team has expanded there as well, in Dubai and actually in Sharjah as well. We have a number of employees currently as well. So it's grown quite quickly over the couple of months.
At what point did, I suppose, when the news broke on Saturday about the American strikes in Iran, was it something that maybe there was rumblings about, there was a line of sight that maybe something was going to go down, for want of a better expression, or how did you first find out, and what was your initial reaction when it happened?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, like everybody was kind of following the developments closely over the last couple of days, and I would say, obviously, there's been tensions, but I don't think anyone was expecting it to kind of, I suppose, move as quickly as it has, and the scale really of how it's kind of maybe fallen into, particularly for ourselves in the UAE. And I think over the weekend, really, for me, was just to reach out initially to our own staff, just to, I suppose, ensure that they were safe. As you say, we've members in Dubai and in Sharjah as well, quite close to Dubai. And just speaking to the guys, I know some of them spent the weekend in basements over there. And I suppose quite scary. And myself, I was actually due to travel at the end of next week to Dubai, but obviously I think that's not going to happen for the short term with all kind of flights grounded. And obviously I think you would have seen there was a strike on the airport itself in Dubai. So, quite uncertain. And I think the scale and how quick it moved is something I don't think anyone really was expecting.
Are your staff mainly Irish people who are living over there, or are they kind of from all around the world?
Yeah, we've a mix. We have some guys that have relocated into Dubai, and then some locals that are based there all their lives. So a bit of a mix, Ronan.
I suppose, yeah, but it brings it very close to home, as you say. You mentioned things like the airport, probably, infrastructure that you've been through in the past and we're due to go through next week, and it probably strikes home. But, and when you hear you saying like that people were just in basements, just for that extra level of security, what's the latest over there? I know, the US today, I think, issued a warning to citizens to maybe consider leaving the area. The Irish government haven't followed suit with anything to that level just yet, but what's the current advice for people that are living in Dubai or the Emirati at the minute?
Yeah, I think to be honest, there was some levels of conflict. I know that some people were considering actually going up towards the north of the UAE, towards Ras Al Khaimah, but I believe that was took some strikes over the last couple of days as well. So I think for our Irish staff is probably to follow the advice of the government. But I think the advice really is to kind of stay put, and I think Dubai hopefully is one of the safer areas in the region as well, currently. So I think that's really the advice, and the advice that we would be giving our own staff really as well,
Of course, it can have so many impacts, both directly on your staff in terms of them, getting secure, staying safe. It obviously disrupts business operations. Does it affect your confidence in the region then?
Yeah, no, I think like any business, I think what you're always trying to get is certainty within any market or any operation that you have. But look, it's a resilient part of the world, and I think we have strong confidence, in terms of what we're doing over there. But like anything, I suppose we're tracking developments like anybody else. But I think we're still confident in terms of what we've developed over there over the last 18 months, and continue to develop with what we're doing.
And of course, there might be a wider knock on. There's a lot of reporting already about the impact potentially on oil prices. We're hearing it's not as severe as it was when Russia invaded Ukraine at this point in time. Gas prices appear to have gone up. There was talks of plants in Kuwait and Qatar shutting down operations in order to protect their infrastructure. The ramifications, like Irish businesses may begin to feel this very, very rapidly.
Yeah, I think, the Middle East is obviously a crucial region on the global energy markets, and people have probably heard a lot about the Strait of Hormuz there. It's about a 100-mile stretch of waterway where 25% of the oil and gas of the world that actually travels through. So that's kind of come to a standstill really at the minute. And I suppose there's been a knock-on effect, as you say, in terms of oil prices kind of fluctuating, maybe getting up towards a 10% increase. But I think for maybe speaking about businesses and consumers, I think it's really the gas prices that have really increased, almost 50% increase on the day market yesterday. And I think, particularly for as Qatar has stopped production of their LNG, which is the largest facility in the world really for that production. But I think when you look at the European market and how energy is kind of managed there, we're still very heavily reliant on gas generation for electricity, or for gas for electricity generation. In Ireland, we're typically even closer to over 50% of our electricity is generated from gas. So I think that's kind of putting levels of kind of doubt in investors within the markets, and that's kind of seen those increases. But I think if you're looking at it maybe to have the impact on businesses and consumers, I think there's probably three real areas that probably have to be taken in consideration. And one would be, I suppose, those price increases don't automatically then fall back to customers and consumers. Energy companies tend to buy on kind of hedge their energy, months ahead, and in some cases actually further ahead than that. So what I would like to think is that increase, isn't going to actually hit businesses and consumers quickly. The other one that I think is going to play a massive part is the reserves of gas that we have across Europe. So actually at the minute it's quite low. So we're about on average about a 30% gas reserves. And what that really does is gives a buffer to these types of spikes and increases. And as you say, it's not as high as what happened in Ukraine. But because that buffer is quite low, we had a tough winter across Europe in terms of cold snaps. So if that starts to deplete, it can then, if these prices then, the length of the conflict is, if that conflict continues, as you say, initially a couple of days, but if it drags on post weeks and months, I think then it can have an impact for customers. But we shouldn't see a huge increase right now for customers. But as I say, if that length drags on and those resources start to deplete, that's where you could really see it. Whereas maybe at the fuel pump, it'd be a quicker kind of turnaround. But again, a lot of our oil and a lot of that doesn't necessarily come from the Middle East for that side of things. So I think it's kind of, hopefully I think that if the conflict doesn't continue for a long period of time, it should be that those prices hopefully can settle back down and there's not as much of an impact on businesses and consumers this side.
4 years ago when Russia invaded the Ukraine, again, it had a huge shock back on the economy, particularly on kind of, again, price volatility for many SMEs. There was a lot of talk back then about the move towards renewables, solars, how we can better retrofit buildings or build better in order to try and reduce the impact of those shocks as well. As a nation, have we learned enough, or are the same conversations going to happen given the current situation in the Middle East?
Yeah, I think we're still in a similar position, Ronan. The idea of that being able to generate this huge amount of renewables, we have issues in terms of actually bringing those renewables onto the system. So as I say, we're still very heavily reliant on imported gas for the generation of our electricity. So the idea of trying to cap our energy prices, which has been muted before, just this doesn't necessarily make sense because we're so open to that global market. It makes it difficult. And I think probably in a sense, trying to reduce how much energy that we're actually using, can obviously help in terms of those price increases. But I still think we're open. And as you say, for a lot of business, particularly probably the manufacturing sector here in this country, with these high energy prices, it makes businesses kind of, less competitive in that sense. So I think we have a way to go in terms of trying to really get a handle behind this.
You mentioned at the very start resilience being a key piece as we approach this. From your own business perspective, like with your staff in the UAE, are they still continuing? Like, does work continue as normal effectively because people have a sense of security, or what's it like day to day for them at the minute?
Yeah, to be honest, look, I think everybody over the last couple of days probably got a level of a shock with everything that's happened. So I think for us, first, we just, as I say, wants to make sure that everybody is safe. And look, I think business always happens. I think it's slowed, obviously, in terms of what we're at the minute. And I think, if that level of certainty can kind of come back into the region and into the markets, I think that will then spur business on again at the minute. But I think for us, look, we have projects that have been in the pipeline. Probably just some have stalled a little bit just over the last couple of days. But look, we like to think that things will hopefully de-escalate. But again, as you say at the start of the show, it remains to be seen, I suppose, how long this will kind of last,
Absolutely. I think for the interest of everybody involved, the quicker the better on that one. Paula, thanks a million for coming on this evening as well. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. If people would like to learn even more about Paul Mahon, he will be the guest of honour for Founder Friday, taking place this Friday in Eugene Kelly's in Tullamore from 6 p.m, where it's an event by All Pro Recruitment, Tullamore Rotary Club, and sponsored by the Local Enterprise Office in Offaly as part of Local Enterprise Week 2026. So Paul will be put on a high stool and he'll be getting a bit of a grilling for about an hour. So are you going to reveal all your secrets on Friday, Paul?
It depends on what you grill me, I think, Ronan. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Not at all. I say it's thanks a million, Paul. We'll catch up with you again soon. Anyway, look, that's an event definitely worth looking at for your calendar this week. And I'll give you an update on exactly what's happening for Local Enterprise Week across the show. But next Friday evening, the 6th of March, 6 p.m, Eugene Kelly's pub. You'll be out in time for the rugby, don't worry. And Paul will be the latest business owner to take part in Founder Friday, where people can come along and they can just learn about the who, the what, the why, what motivates people, what drives people, how they can deliver value back to customers, and just learn from somebody who is on a mission there to build another great Midlands business. And you can see Paul's business has already expanded into the UAE, and undoubtedly even greater things and bigger things to come from them. Thanks as always to Paul. Time for a very quick break. After that, you're going to meet the founder of a fairly new business, only about 18 months old, based in Westmeath.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
Still to come on the show, when it comes to cybersecurity now, why is protecting networks no longer enough? You now must start looking at the people behind the screen. So we're going to tap into the impact of social media, stuff being taken offline by WhatsApp or in direct messaging, how it can actually open up weaknesses in your business and ultimately bring about a ransomware or major cybersecurity incident. Kevin O'Loughlin from Nostra will be along shortly to tell us about what we should be looking out for and speak about a new initiative they've launched, which is there to really help companies counteract the impact of that. So really it's moving from kind of networks to the very people behind those screens. Interesting one. We'll talk about that very, very shortly. Before that though, I'm going to introduce you to one of the finalists in this year's County Enterprise Awards in Westmeath. A relatively new business called Creators31, founded by Katie Cochrane. Katie, good evening. Welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Hi, thank you for having me.
What, about 18 months of business at this stage, is it?
Yes, so very new still, but very much finding our feet now.
Yeah, but I'm going to say you're probably somebody who knew kind of exactly where you wanted to go in the first place, because you spent 9 years between New York and LA in the fashion industry, but you came back to Westmeath to launch a creative business.
Yeah, so I spent 9 years in the US, so it was 5 years in Los Angeles and 4 years in New York. So there I worked in retail fashion, where you really have to do the balance of design mixed with commercial. So what you design, it has to sell. The industry is 360 million population, so you have to make sure you're selling stuff to them. And then when I came back to Ireland, I really wanted to use the same design, the same research, the same trend-driven research, and start designing here.
I'm just getting visions of like one of those real pressure kitchens in a Michelin star kitchen. Like, was it pressure? Because you say like everything you're talking about there is all about the commercial side of it, like, making the money, getting the right designs out. Was it, or was it a nice walk in the park?
No, it's big pressure industry. We have big targets. I would be designing for about $12 million for one of the companies that I worked with. We would have worked with Macy's and Kohl's, would be huge units that you wouldn't even touch with the Irish industry, because it's just massive and you have big pressure coming in. You have to present it. They might not be the warmest of presentations, but it gives you a good thick skin, and your job is to design. So some things work, some things don't, and you learn to track your sales. It gives you great experience with product development, so you know every single stage of how product works, from designing it, pitching it, and then actually getting it produced and into a country.
So our speed and agility then, is that something you really took from it, because you got to respond rapidly, get the designs right, get them selling? Is that something that you felt you can bring and really harness as part of your new business then?
Yeah, big time. You also get ever-changing feedback, which is something you have to learn to pivot instantly with. So something that could be about to be sold and about to be produced, actually blue's not working, we need to change everything to pink. And you have to do that pivot right away. And the same thing happens here. Projects come up last minute, you have to take it, run with it, and not take the pressure on.
Was it always your goal to come back to Westmeath, to Ireland, and set up your own business?
Yeah, it was always the goal to come back. The US industry is brilliant, but the benefits of being in Ireland and the Irish industry, I definitely wanted to come back at some point.
So tell us about Creators31. What do you do?
Yeah, so we are a creative partner for established businesses. So it could be a beauty brand, it could be a local business, and basically anything that you want created, we will create for them. So I had a brand this weekend that was sponsoring the Gossies, and they wanted to present themselves there in a really well, branded way. So I sourced chairs, branded mirrors, banners, balloons, everything, and doing the setup for them and the project management. A big thing is taking away the pressure from internal teams. Internal teams have enough to be doing. They have their own strategies. They have their own job. This way we can take on that sourcing, take on the designing, set it up, take it away, and they don't have that pressure.
I'm sure when you drop names like Macy's into the mix, it kind of catches customers or potential clients' attention.
Yeah. Well, I think when they hear that you've worked with like Macy's and Kohl's, they know that you can handle a lot and take it all on your plate with commercial results, which is a big thing. One thing that I've always been known for is the balance of design with commercial. A lot of people might have one part and not necessarily the other. And this way we can design something and actually have it commercially viable and still make money. And the
run-in for a project like that, are you getting a long lead time, or again, can they be...
Most of the time,
we heard
not.
You're the person to call, yeah.
Yeah. Oftentimes not. People get deals very last minute, and you have to learn to make it happen with a quick turnaround. And, you know, a big thing is that I care about the projects and I want them to look good. So communication, I'm always very strong on that front, checking in with them, like reassuring the client that, yeah, it is going to be okay. We will make it on time. Like, it is a hustle to get there, but it will work.
And you mentioned go and find the maybe bespoke items of furniture or whatever it might be. Can all of that typically be sourced in Ireland, or do you have to look overseas as well? Like, if you're looking for that perfect piece that you think is really going to, lend itself to that particular brand?
A bit of both. Oftentimes it will be abroad for like a bigger item. I do have a lot of factories that I work with overseas. If it is something that would be a custom item that might be going in a PR box, like a keyring or something that they want handmade to go along with an item. But I'll try to often use like an Irish artist or different Irish suppliers.
That area of PR gifting, you've kind of touched on it there. What is that, and is it something that is becoming really popular now, or was it always a thing that we just ordinary Joe Soaps never knew anything about it?
I think it was always a thing, but now it's evolved into more with influencers online. Everyone likes to see the new creative ways that brands are showing their new products, and influencers is modern marketing. So the way they present a PR box, I'll work with a client and they'll tell me what their new project is or what the new product is, and I'll pitch them how I think they could present it. Then I'll pitch the ideas, source everything to go into it, get it produced, and then deliver the finished item to them.
Is PR gifting something that's best used for a very new product, a new idea, or is it a great way of getting, say, a competitor's product, in getting somebody's attention to say, look, there's an alternative, maybe it's an Irish-based alternative to a project you're using? What's the typical objective of it? Like, who and what do you target with a PR gifting campaign?
Mostly it would be something new, but having it for, like if someone was using a non-Irish product and they wanted to use an Irish product, that would be a great way of getting it over to them. And if you have your PR gifting in a unique way and a beautiful way, mostly if it's personalised as well, you have a bigger chance of an influencer showcasing it without being even paid for it. I did a very successful PR box for Cash Beauty when they launched the Radiant Canvas primer. We did custom paintings for each of the influencers. We used an Irish artist to do all of these paintings. So the influencer got a beautiful painting, but also got the new primer. And I think everybody showed it, because who doesn't want to show a painting of themselves?
I've never got a painting myself, and I don't want one either as well. But it was, you mentioned like brands. I mean, Cash Beauty, people may or may not be familiar with it. Certain people will absolutely know it. Another massive Midlands Mullingar-based success story as well. You worked on, though, recently on the pop-up shop in Kildare Village.
Yeah, that was a brilliant project, and the shop is still open in Kildare Village. So they got word just before Christmas that there was a unit available in Kildare Village. So we had about 10 days from the initial meeting to the opening of the store to get it open, because it was only one weekend left before Christmas and you got to get the Christmas shopping in. So it was a very, very tight turnaround, but it turned out amazing.
Yeah, you seem to take this in your stride, these kind of tight turnarounds, and that experience in the US undoubtedly lending itself to that as well. Despite bringing all that experience back, when it came to setting up your own company, Any kind of concerns, any misgivings? I know you embraced or engaged the local enterprise office in Westmeath as well as part of it.
Yeah, I think I might have done every course that they offer. If you subscribe to their newsletter, you actually get all of the courses that they do. So the Start Your Own Business course, which is brilliant because it gives you all the advice for how to set up a business, the difference of sole trader, limited company. They go through everything with accounts, your VAT. It's a great place to go even when you're just investigating the idea. But one of my favourite ones that I did was with Blaise Brosnan, the Management Development Programme. He's just an amazing, super wise man who has real life experience within business. So if you ever see any talk with him, I recommend going to it.
Yeah, you're not the first guest who's mentioned the programme at Blaise. Any standout thing? What was it for you that clicked, that really lent itself to developing Creators31?
He was really good at boosting my confidence. He said that I was the second person he's ever met in his life that had left brain, right brain kind of set up that I could design but also bring it into business. So him helping me realise that actually is something unique and that it can be used and brought to a lot of different businesses. So
you do what you say you're going to do, then you can clearly do that as well. So what's coming next for Creators31? Where's it going to lead?
Everywhere. The last few weeks have been just very, very great and successful. We did a new PR box for Cash Beauty's lip stain, which is really strong. So I'll be getting that on my socials soon. Working with Ciara Lambert, a hairdresser, setting her up for Gossie Awards. So continuing working with more brands and using more creativity. And
in terms of the brands, like small business, startups, right up to large national brands, everybody can...
Yeah, because a lot is project-based. So it's like whatever your budget is, we can work within your budget. Even if you just need branded chairs, there's no point you spending a half a day researching where to get them when we already have the setup and we can just get them ordered for you and you can get them in a few weeks.
What jumps out is the human is still central to all this.
Yeah,
it is. Nice to hear.
Yeah, and just even, I think a big thing is care and communication. I want to maintain that aspect with it. I care how things are done. I care how they're presented and want the businesses to be proud of how they turn up.
Where can people find out more about you?
On Instagram at Creators31. When you search it, it'll come right up.
There you are. Well, Katie is one of the finalists in the County Enterprise Awards organised by Westmeath, a local enterprise office. That's taking place in Bloomfield House tomorrow evening. All the very best, Katie, and who knows, you could have a big trophy to put on the shelf tomorrow evening. That's if you have time to even look at it. Thanks a million, Katie. That's Katie Cochrane there, the founder of Creators31. Time for a quick break. After that, I'm going to talk all things CEO, sextortion, online harassment and the shift from network security to human protection in your business.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
Do you remember when cybersecurity used to mean protecting servers and networks? Well, today the threat is becoming increasingly more personal, from things like CEO sextortion to online harassment and misinformation campaigns. Attacks are increasingly targeting the people behind the business and behind the very screens being used in your business. Kevin O'Loughlin is the CEO of Nostra. He's from Rosenallis in County Laois originally. They supply managed IT services to well over 1,000 Irish companies at this point in time and have ambitious targets of hitting over 250 million euros in turnover over the next couple of years. Usually when I have Kevin on, he usually corrects me and say we've already hit that target anyway. We'll see where they are at the minute. Good evening, Kevin.
Hi Ronan, how are you doing? Unfortunately, I'm not correcting you today.
Not at all. You're probably not far off it. But I suppose, Kevin, I got in touch with you again because prompted by an article I read in the Sunday Independent at the weekend, and really you spoke about this thing about sextortion and online harassment, and really how the people in the business and really things like social media that are now becoming a real gateway for potential cyberware or ransomware attacks as well. Tell us more about it.
So look, over the last couple of years, so actually if I go back a little bit, right, 15 years ago, none of us were worried about cybersecurity. And about 10 years ago, ransomware started coming out. And ransomware, when it first hit, say, in 2011, 12, 13, it was take down a full network. So your eyes in, all the computers are unavailable, and you have a huge job to get it back up and running. And companies spent couple of days, weeks, months, and sometimes never getting back up and running. So it was very serious at the time. And IT kind of caught up to catch and make that a little bit more stable. And then a second wave of it came in about 2023 and 24 when that hit again. But over the last couple of years, we've noticed a growing trend where ultimately the people behind it are impacted, right? So it's not necessarily all about the technology, and it's about tricking individuals into doing something that they wouldn't ordinarily do. And the example that was mentioned in the paper of the weekend was sextortion, and it's unfortunately way too common. Most of the time, nobody hears about it because it's kept very private. But in simple terms, what happens is somebody, and typically younger people, they're posting pictures on social media. Somebody they don't know starts commenting, liking, etc. And over the course of a couple of weeks or months, they'll start commenting, and eventually they'll send you a direct message, and then you start going backwards and forwards. They'll say to you, listen, I'm not going to be on Instagram for the next couple of weeks or Snapchat or whatever. Let's move it off to WhatsApp or to a different platform. And they share a personal number. Then you're communicating with them there. And then what they start doing is sending, explicit pictures and asking you to send back a reply. And, in some cases, they'll have sent 10 or 12 videos or pictures. And the person on the other side feels, well, hang on, they've sent a lot, I haven't done anything. And people do something that they would never do and then take a picture of themselves or a video and send it off. And instantaneously, they realise the person I thought I was talking to is not the person. I get a demand for 3,000 or 5,000 euros. I'm given 24 hours to pay it. And if I don't pay it in that period, all of my friends on social media are going to be tagged and the picture is going to be posted online. And that's the kind of stuff we're seeing in the world today.
And that is now unfortunately affecting people at all levels, even at senior levels within companies.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily, what we're not necessarily seeing CEOs, and I know the article has that as a headline, but what we're seeing is, CEOs, families, being targeted. So it might be the child of a CEO of a big corporate. And it's much more common in young people, but obviously that impacts the parents and the entire family. And I suppose what we're trying to do is see, a couple of years ago, we developed a product called Nostra Cloud Shield, which has been incredibly successful at defending cyber attacks in our client base. And it's, a whole collection of products and services that we do, and it's kind of as close to a silver bullet as you can get for an organization. And that's been brilliant. We said, okay, well, hang on, is there something we can do to help here? And we found a company called Risk-Eye, owned by a woman called Nicola Byrne. And are really, if you look at why somebody sets up a business, she set it up to try and help people to defend themselves online. And effectively what they've been able to build is a platform that if somebody is in that position, we can go in and we can really push very fast, get the accounts that are attacking somebody shut down, get the data disabled, get the communication to stop and effectively manage the person through the process. But the wider part of it is that, that's the extreme situation. But you also have people who, and either companies or people write things about them online. So you post up an article about your company and somebody writes a comment underneath it, or somebody writes a post on a different website about your business. So what we're now able to do through this Safer Social platform is we're able to monitor all of the activity about the people in a company and also the company itself, and then effectively build a sentiment dashboard. So we're able to see, what people are saying about, Midlands Radio, what's been said about them online, and, is it good or bad in a general sentiment? And then if there's something that is concerning, it'll pop up, let us know, we can review it, and then through our process, we can effectively have it taken down very fast if it breaches content rules, and we can help people to deal with that in the moment rather than trying to manage it yourself and trying to scramble around, hang on, there's something written about me online, how do I deal with it, how do I get it taken down fast? And we've even seen companies where their entire brand has been impersonated. Somebody will set up a web shop pretending to be somebody else. And again, we have now the ability to move really fast and protect our clients' brands in that scenario.
At an event in Athlone last year, Detective Fran Hoban from the Garda Cybercrime Bureau mentioned how some people are now using AI tools to try and basically get in and you write emails and stuff in Irish. And lo and behold, about 2 days ago, I got this follow on Instagram and I clicked on it and I said, it had one follower. Picture, I'd say, was definitely not the person behind it, but all the things, the bio and all the little links were all Oscuelga. And I was like, wow, I've never seen that before. It definitely wasn't an Irish person, I'd say. So I think for everybody to be aware, we're probably seeing these more often than we think. We're probably not paying any real attention to them. But your message is that for a lot of companies, it's to beware, particularly if it tries to take it offline then.
Absolutely. I mean, what I'm saying, what we're saying to people is, look, companies now need to think about their team and protecting them. And they also need to think about their own brand and protecting it. And, because AI is so good, I mean, you can get AI to point at somebody's website and copy it in 2 minutes. Then you can set up a new domain that looks like it and start advertising. And then you're getting people to, if you think of brand reputation, you're now getting people to go on to a different website, buy and put in their credit card number to buy a product. And effectively the credit card number is stolen and maxed out. So now we're using a legitimate brand to take money, and that has huge brand ramifications because 6 weeks, I mean sometimes up to 6 months later, people are still giving out online and they're like, look, I ordered this product from company XYZ, it never arrived, really bad experience. And sometimes you never even find out who has actually bought it and didn't get it because you're not getting the emails, you're not getting the notifications, and it all happens completely invisibly. So what we're trying to do is create a monitoring platform to monitor both the content that's written about the people, but also about the company, and then an ability to react really fast and live and deal with it. So it's a very new concept, and it's something we're certainly the first. We haven't been able to see an alternative option for doing this around the world. So we think it is very early in its adoption, but we think it's really important. And one of the challenges that people have is they don't know how prevalent this is. We're seeing it, on a weekly basis. We've about 1,000 customers, a relatively small client base. We're seeing this on a weekly basis, which is a lot. I mean, that's 52 times a year. It's a couple of percent. 2 years ago, we didn't see it at all. And our view is when we actually get out and speak to our customers and advertise the fact that we can help, we're seeing 5%. It's probably something like 10 or 15% of companies are experiencing something like this at the moment. And if action isn't taken, this is just going to accelerate, particularly with AI and the ability to do it in an automated way.
Unfortunately, it's the human factor too is a role in this, like almost has been kind of in any cybersecurity. Like there's usually a human element that somebody lets somebody or something in, and I've heard it mentioned before that the amount of people that don't come forward, if they've had money taken from them, particularly if it's to do with a sex crime, it's sexploitation or whatever, because of that very embarrassment, and they're actually the people that we need coming forward to make sure that these criminals are caught, or at least that they can't do any more harm.
Absolutely. And look, a really critical message I'd say to anyone out there who this has happened to, there's absolutely no requirement for embarrassment at all. This is, this is extreme technology that's used to absolutely manipulate, any human psychology. And, people need to understand that this is not something to be embarrassed about. It's actually something to just accept these things happen, forget about it, deal with it, come forward, and let's work together. And I think I think Ireland has a real opportunity now to be, one of the first countries in the world to really deal with this at scale. And the sooner we get in and deal with it, it means that, Ireland and its customers and companies will be left alone.
How is all things in the world of Nostra? I know most times you're on, there's been a few more acquisitions, or there's certainly an ambitious growth plan for the years ahead.
Yeah, well, look, this is no different. Yeah, we are trucking away. I mean, it has been an unbelievably fast start to the year. Last year, was a very challenging year. Lots of things. We deal with a lot of US multinationals, and a lot of them pulled back on some of their spend in the middle of the year. But by and large, last year was a good year for us. But this year, we've had more organic growth in January and February this year than we did in the last 6 months of last year. And we've just had a huge demand for companies who just want to ultimately outsource their IT and just get it dealt with. And people want to get on with doing their business and don't need the headaches of technology. So, it's a good time to do what we do. It is busy. I don't think I've ever had a busier 8 weeks than I've just gone through. But it is good. On the acquisition front, we're going to continue buying companies. We'll probably buy 2 or 3 companies this year. A huge focus for us. And our view is we'll do our first UK transaction towards the end of this year, start of next year. And then for us, it's a big drive into Europe and the UK. But for the moment, our focus is very much in Ireland and becoming a true national partner. We've now offices in Dublin, Cork, Belfast, and Galway, and we've people right the way across Ireland, and we look after about 1,000 companies at this stage. And our view is that there's still an opportunity to double or triple our size before we leave the island.
And was the Middle East ever part of your plans, and do the events over the weekend change those in any ways, if so?
No, it wasn't. And sorry, we do have customers out there, and actually we have several team members who are just by pure coincidence on travel, and we're coming back. So we've several people trapped out there at the moment, and we're working to try and see what we can do to get them back. But I think everyone is in the same boat there. No, look, I took a great piece of advice from Martin McVicker several years ago from CombiLift, and he said to me, "Don't fly over a market until you've conquered it." So, we've customers all over the world, but they're Irish headquartered businesses, and we manage their global offices and operations. So, we have people in Boston, but they're Irish companies with Boston offices. And we do an awful lot of that around the world. But, for us, it's Ireland, then it'll be the UK, then it'll be Europe. We won't fly over a territory until we've conquered it.
No truer word said. And Kevin, as always, thank you so much for your time as well. A timely warning for any business owner out there too, but always great to hear of a success of an Irish company, and one with a man from Rosenallis in the driving seat. Kevin, we'll catch up with you again soon.
Legend. Thanks a million, Ron. Take care.
Will do. That's Kevin O'Loughlin there, the founder and CEO of Nostra. Time for you for a quick break. After that, we'll have a quick look at what you can catch up on in terms of events for Local Enterprise Week 2026.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
Listening to Kevin O'Loughlin from Nostra there speak about the latest ways cyber attacks are happening, and it'll give you the heebie-jeebies. Well, this week is Local Enterprise Week, and there's a fabulous series of events taking place across Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. I'll draw your attention to one that's taking place on Friday the 6th, or Friday, which is it's a fraud awareness event in Borough, protecting your business. And that's really exactly what Kevin was talking about there. That's Leo Offaly in partnership with Bank of Ireland and on Garda Síochána. They're hosting the informative fraud awareness event designed to help business owners recognise, prevent and respond to emerging fraud threats. So again, extremely timely. On Friday evening too, I mentioned it earlier, when speaking to Paul Mahon from Watt Footprint, 6 p.m, Eugene Kelly's pub in Tullamore, co-hosted by All Pro Recruitment, Tullamore Rotary and sponsored by Leo Offaly. Paul will be part of Founder Friday. He'll tell his story about what motivates him, what drove him to create Watt Footprint, and it'll be kind of a continuation of what we spoke about this evening. But remember, go on to your local enterprise office website, be you in Laois, Offaly or Westmeath, and just type in Local Enterprise Week and you'll get a series or a link to all the events that are happening. Tomorrow, Leadership in Age of Chaos is taking place, again held by Offaly Leo, but a renowned journalist and entrepreneur, Mark Little, will be there delivering a keynote in Tullamore tomorrow. It's an in-person event that's taking place tomorrow. A quick look at what's happening across Laois and Westmeath as well. Huge amounts of stuff. Again, every workshop you need to look at growing a business, starting a business, driving your business. This evening, Jerry Duffy is just finishing up a motivational talk there as well about businesses. Owen McGee, you'll know him from RTE, is on about how to be good with business. That's tomorrow evening from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Again, if you go on, that's in the Midlands Park Hotel. If you go onto their website, just click on the link. They are free to attend as well, and they really are a necessity for any business in the region. Tomorrow evening, the Westmeath County Enterprise Awards take place in the Bloomfield House Hotel. 12 really diverse companies are shortlisted there, winners to be announced tomorrow as well. But they have clinics and workshops on things like time management, start your own business, how to incorporate lean into your business. And most of the Leos as well have particular events in the run-up and to mark International Women's Day that take place later this week. So, you've no excuses. Get online, get booking, get started. It's time for me to go. Joe is here next with Country Roads. I hope you found this evening's show useful. I'll talk to you all next Tuesday.